Welcome to This Team Is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. She is Lauren Brownlow. I am Dimitri Ravanas. And Lauren, what is killing me today, and a note for the listeners, we are recording before the schedule is released later on tonight on Wednesday. What is killing me today, Lauren, is I think the Saints are on the verge of making history. I think as bad as the Panthers were in 2023, the Saints have the potential to be one of the worst NFL teams ever in 2025.
I love this song. Turn it up.
I don't want to say winless because that is a big, bold projection. But it does seem like somebody down in New Orleans flipped a switch, clicked a button, whatever it is, to make sure Arch Manning protocol has been engaged.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I know that seems like the way that they're going to be going, I would assume at this point. However, in the meantime, I mean, there's an Aaron Rodgers right there. Why not New Orleans? Come on. Let's do this. Let's implode. Many of us would love to see it.
So my buddy Matt Moscona, who is on the radio down in Baton Rouge and is a big Saints fan, put out a great primer. I don't know what the right word for it is, but basically put out this thing saying that if you are a Saints fan, you should welcome the suck this year, not just because of tanking for a better quarterback, but because Derek Carr suddenly retiring might be enough to get them out of the cap hell they've been in for more than a decade at this point. Mm-hmm. If that's true, great for Saints fans. I personally am going to enjoy what, again, I'm not predicting, but could be the first 0-17 team in NFL history.
Okay, but see, now here comes cynical Panthers fan back in.
Sure.
She doesn't go away for long. So now I'm having anxiety over oh no, well now we can't lose to them. Ever.
Right.
Not once.
So again, talking before the schedule comes out, so I don't know who's playing who when, just looking at who the home and away opponents were this year for the Panthers earlier this week, I did have that thought of 3-3 in the division seems like a logical choice. You shouldn't lose to the Saints. You probably aren't going to beat the Falcons. You can probably split with the Buccaneers. That would be my guess.
You don't think they'll beat the Falcons at all?
I just feel like 3-3 is a safe bet given the trajectory of this team. But I also had the thought of nothing can go wrong against the Saints if they are going to stay on the upward trajectory this year.
See, I was going to say, as fun as it would be to watch them suck all year, what would be less fun is if I have all that Schadenfreude and then all of a sudden they play the Panthers. And sometimes they've been saving those matchups, I feel like, for the end of the year, at least one of them.
Right.
Sometimes they start the season like last year, and it's the stuff of my nightmares.
I think we have played them in the first 3 weeks one time in the first 3 weeks, each of the last 2, maybe 3 seasons. So it's very possible that this could be the year they kind of flip-flop with the Buccaneers and we don't see them at all until we're in the double-digit weeks. But yeah, it's going to be something. I
don't know what's better. The earlier, the better, maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. I now I just have anxiety about losing to them because they'll suck so bad.
I am all for whoever it is, Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler. It is just a collection of we feel like we should take a quarterback kind of guys on that roster right now.
What did I text you though after they took Shuck? I like him. I know he's had his issues. I know he's a little older. I know whatever, but I like him as a quarterback and I hated that they took him for that reason. And so we'll see. I think you're probably right considering all the other issues they have. It's not just quarterback, obviously, but I don't know. That makes me a little nervous.
So you and I really diverge on quarterbacks in this draft because I don't just not like Shuck. I think Shuck is probably the worst quarterback of the ones that got drafted, including Dylan Gabriel, because I'm not sure what it is that Shuck does well. At least Dylan Gabriel is fast.
I mean, I guess, but
Like,
you know,
like
kind of have to be able. I mean, you know, so's Jalen Milroe, but
yeah,
like, you know,
you
have to be able to throw. Like that is important.
This feels like Lauren Brownlow betraying everything I know about the way she feels about quarterbacks and falling in love with the guy that has all the right height and weight stats.
Well, I liked the way he played this year. Like I watched a lot of his games, like that genuinely. So that's the reason I like him. I promise you, I usually don't do like I don't think I think Jackson Dart sucks. So
yeah, I agree with you.
You know, so it's like you're right. I thought Kenny Pickett would suck, and not because of his tiny hands. You know,
Pickett. So he's the model, right? If a guy has been in college for 6 years and was only good for one of them, that should tell you a lot.
No, you very well could be right. Like I'm far from an expert on this. I've said that a million times. I just enjoyed sometimes I've talked about this on here. I watch guys in college and enjoy them, and I'm like, you know, when they move on to the next level, I just immediately have this confirmation bias in my head of like, that guy's going to be good.
Yeah,
and it's usually irrational. Very often it can be, but like, I'm just like, you know, that guy could chuck it. Like I thought he was pretty good passer last year. I enjoyed watching him.
All right, let's talk about Panthers rookies. Obviously, there are a lot of stories coming out about Teteroa McMillan, but I want to talk about the next two guys drafted by the Carolina Panthers, Nick Scourton and Princely Umanmielen. Lauren, I feel like a lot has been written this week that makes you think there is some real, like, have to perform now pressure on these guys. Not that they are going to be shunned as failures. They're second and third round draft picks, but it seems like the Panthers have plans for these guys to be in the rotation at a high level right away. In fact, Ben Solak of ESPN projected that before this season is over, these guys are both going to be starting outside linebackers for this team.
Well, that's I was going to say that part's interesting, but you know, I think when they let go of Jadeveon Clowney, I mean, that to me seemed to signal that as well, as much as anything else. Like that was to me like the big one that you're like, okay, and that really takes the, you know, average age down in that room and everything, and so yeah, that was the signifier to me that like, oh, they're going young here. And they traded, you know, obviously they picked up some guys in free agency and whatnot as well that can help out in the pass rush department. So it's not just those two, but yeah, I mean, it's clear they want to go young and they believe in the people that they've got in there now. And like, that's not to say Clowney being cut doesn't make sense for other reasons too, you know, but I was slightly surprised by it, to be honest, because he's like hometown guy, all that stuff, pretty cheap, relatively speaking, I guess. But they could still use the cap space, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I get it, but then at the same time, it's like it would have been nice to have kind of an older guy in that room who really gets it.
And I guess you do with Josie Jewell, and you do on the outside with DJ Wanham. I think if you are cutting.
I don't know, man. I was going to say, compared to Clowney, though, like...
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think if you are cutting Clowney, to me, it is solely about, and I want to give DJ Wanham credit, he did perform when he was in there. But if you are cutting Clowney and not Wanham, it is solely about salary numbers and what it does to the cap. Because Jadeveon Clowney is getting, because they were both under, like, $6 million, I think $2 million or under $7 million rather. I think $2 million would be considered significantly more than what Wanham is getting. For me, like the lingering blood clot issue would have made Wanham a prime cut candidate. I have not shied away from that all offseason. I do think the fact though that they cut Clowney and there is no reward for Wanham performing when he was on the field last year tells you that the plan very much is Scourton and Umanmielen better be taking the majority of the snaps before this season is over.
Yeah. And what was the guy they got in free agency? Patrick something.
Pat Jones.
Yeah, Pat Jones. So that he'll figure in as well, I'm sure at points. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I was gonna say like Wanham and Jewel, I don't think are very old either. Like,
no, they aren't. And you also have is it Travian?
Yes.
Shoot, the kid they drafted out of Kentucky last year, whose name escapes me, who's probably not going to start in the middle, but will see a lot more time on the field this season. So you're right. It's not an old group, but there are guys that have been in Evero's system.
Yeah.
And this is not going to be, not only is it learning a new system, they also are not learning a new lifestyle in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, in a way, I get it. I mean, if you're going to rebuild a defense, it's not going to happen overnight anyways. Right. Like, it's really not. You want to see some improvement made for sure. But at a certain point, while it'd be nice to have a vet like Clowney there that really, seems to get it in his older age and everything, and is a good influence, like, you got to kind of go with the youth movement at some point and build from there. So I think it could, it could have its moments. Again, we've talked about this. I still would like to see safeties on the roster at all, but in the pass rush department, yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you. The youth movement is a really good way to frame this, because I want to play for you this clip from Nick Scourton, who was talking to the media during rookie minicamp. He was asked about his relationship with Prince Umanmielen, because they are both SEC guys. They obviously played each other last year, wanted to know how much these guys knew each other. And he ended up telling this story about the way they went through practice and minicamp together. That was, I don't know, like, it made me very happy to hear this. Take a listen.
We're getting along great. Two guys who love football, two guys who love to get after it. Last night in our hotel room, it's like 10 o'clock. We're downstairs in the conference room, setting up chairs, getting looks, because we're trying to be prepared for practice today. And that's the type of guy he is, and that's the type of guy I am, and I'm excited to get to work with him.
So who all was part of that chair deal?
It's just me, Princely, and Kadrin Jenkins.
Yeah. So the chairs were offensive linemen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you were any hotel employees curious about what was going on?
Yes, sir. We had a couple people peep in the room, and we're like, "Are we good to be in here?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're good, but what are y'all doing?" And we're just like, "We're just going over plays."
So, very much hardcore football guy sort of stuff. Here's what's interesting. So this was not in the clip. This was someone following up with him afterwards. Nick Scourton said that Pat Jones II and DJ Wanham both eventually joined in that ballroom session. So they certainly are making an impression on their teammates, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I saw some of what Princely had to say. He's definitely a very confident man. Confident young man. I guess when your name is Princely, what choice do you have?
Not only is his name Princely, he's got a little brother named Princewell. Prince, royalty runs in that family.
Princewell, I like that. It's
yes, indeed.
You know what? You can't just be a prince. You got to do it well.
Right. We have a standard for being a prince in this household. So with the defense going with not just the youth movement, Lauren, but also so many new faces from free agency. What is it okay if, again, like I told you, I looked at the Panthers schedule, and 7-10 seems like where I would guess this team would be next year. And I'm okay with it being another year before the year for this team. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think that's kind of inevitable. At the end of the day, can Bryce and company do enough offensively to win them some games? Can the defense do enough against some particularly sucky offenses to give that a chance to happen? And can those two things come together magically on the same day? Or will I be having a nervous breakdown most Sundays? I don't know. TBD. But I think probably in the 5 to 7 range, right? Or you would hope it'd be more than 5, right? But I don't know, 5 to 8, maybe, even if we're really getting crazy with it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a max is 8-ish. It would be my absolute max. I don't see how with this defense, even with the youth movement and a lot of, some of the improvements that are made, unless they end up pulling some real sorcery at safety at some point along the way. I see a lot of long passing bombs going over heads and no defenders in frames while touchdowns are scored by the opponent. And that makes me a little nervous.
So Pro Football Focus did note that there is an undrafted free agent safety that has a really good chance of making this roster because of the way he was used. His name is Jack Henderson. He is a safety out of Minnesota, I believe. And he was a dude that was used at safety, was used at nickel corner, was used as middle linebacker at times. And so if nothing else, he's going to get an opportunity to make the team probably for special teams, right? And then whatever happens from there happens. Now that, of course, is still pending whatever other moves they're going to make at safety before the season begins. But it's going to be an interesting position to watch. I don't think you're wrong. I think that defending the deep pass is going to be
y'all better sack that dude. Whoever.
Yeah. I mean, between Maureen, who don't get me wrong, I love that they landed Maureen, but between Maureen and Ransom, you don't really have that dude that is known for playing center field as a safety right now.
You don't really have many other dudes at all that I'm aware of. Like, I don't know any other names off the top of my head beyond that. I'm sure they exist, and at least one of them I'd go, oh yeah, him.
Right.
But that's it. And that just makes I know. We, like I said, we did this with the O-line, but they at least had people in place at that time when we were panicking. You know what I mean? Like, at least the bodies existed.
You're right. When we freaked out about the offensive line after 2023 and they quote unquote remade the offensive line, they kept more than half of what they had in place, right? Because they kicked Corbett inside from guard to center and just bring in 2 new guards. This really does feel different. I want to flip to the other side of the ball here in just a second. But first, I do want to tell everybody tickets are on sale right now for the Sports Podcast Festival, August 23rd at the Rialto. Lauren will be there. I will be there. Our friends Ovius and Gilio will be there. And we are bringing in Split Zone Duo and Big Screen Sports, who I believe Lauren will be on stage with that night. Tickets on sale at etix.com. There are all kinds of options for getting your tickets. We just revealed the show shirt, the official show shirt from Home Field Apparel. There is an option to go ahead and reserve your shirt with your tickets. There is also an option if you want to get tickets for the Sports Podcast Festival in August and Balls versus Cancer starring the Sklar brothers in September. There is a single ticket you can purchase that gets you in to both shows. September RDU on Instagram has all of those links, or you can go straight to etix.com. Lauren, I think right now, before we get to real training camp, let's say, there are a lot of people struggling to create content. And so we are seeing a lot of way too early drafts. And you know what I say? Mock drafts, no matter when they happen, do not mean anything. Nothing has happened yet, right? But I am taken aback by the number of people that just assume BryceYoung, everything he did last year was a mirage, and the Panthers are going to be right back trying to figure out what they are doing at quarterback by the end of this season.
I actually saw some, like, I was listening to one where they were like, I'm going to have the Panthers take, like, I don't remember if it was a pass rusher or an offensive player. And I was like, yo, did I miss some safeties? Like, are y'all unaware that we are in desperate need? Like, and I'm sure still will be after this year.
Yeah.
Like, I would hope that they would go that route, but we'll obviously see how things go. But yeah, I mean, I get it to a degree. Like, it's not like we haven't seen quarterbacks appear to put things together only to have it fall apart. Of course, We've also seen quarterbacks put it together and it stays together, and at least for a while, like Josh Allen was one of those. Like, it was a mess for him for a while.
For sure.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, it clicked, so, I mean, I think that it's natural to assume that to a degree, or to at least have some skepticism. But yeah, like you said, your thing on mock drafts is they're meaningless. Mine is, if you call anything way too early, I will not read it or listen to it because you're telling me I should not.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think these things are fun. I don't think you should put a lot of stock in
Just
them.
call it early. You don't need to be all cheeky. If you're saying it's way too early, then I'm not going to read it yet because it's irrelevant.
Especially now that everybody is using the way too early moniker, right? That used to be ESPN's thing right after the national championship game, the way too early top 25.
I hate it.
And now it's everybody's go-to. But real quick, Jason McIntyre, noted dipshit, on the herd with Colin Cowherd. He started the big lead. He has the Panthers taking Nico Iamaleava in the first round. Brent Sobolewski.
Oh, so good to know that won't be happening based on who made that pick. Also, what?
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on.
I'm with you. Brent Sobolewski of Bleacher Report has the Panthers taking Arch Manning because he has the Panthers picking in the top 2 next year.
Wow. Okay.
All right, 2 things. Number 1, this feels incredibly lazy. Number 2,
it's not new for Panthers national coverage
for
at
sure.
all. Yeah.
Also not new for guy that covers the NFL but does not have college football references. Look at the history of the Manning family. They do not leave college early. I do not expect Arch is going to be
you don't
part
think
of
so?
the 2026 draft. No, I think he's going to stay his senior year. What does this say about the way we locally feel about what we saw from Bryce versus what nationally people perceive in that second half of the season?
I mean, to be fair, I'm not going to hang all of the national opinion on those two.
Sure. That's totally fair.
I think there is some cautious optimism out there among people who know more. Nationally speaking, about Bryce. And, look, I think a lot of people, and this, I know this might seem insignificant to the actual football analysis, but I don't necessarily think it is. There are a lot of people out there that like Bryce, nationally. And I get it. He's a likable kid and everything else. I'm calling him a kid. Actually, I got to stop. It's the size thing. I'm trying.
But to be fair, now, not speaking for you, because I think I'm 3 or 4 years older than you, but he's literally half my age. So I'm okay if we keep calling him a kid, right?
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, relative to me, that is a child. Yes.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think so that probably plays somewhat of a role with any cautious optimism. And I think, look, around here, literally, we are all we have been reaching our hands out, desperately flailing for, is there a hope? Is there any hope we can grab here? Can you find any? Oh my God, he played so well for the, you know what I mean? And look, I think part of it for us too is like how many of those people watch Panthers games?
Fair.
Even some of the ones who know more. How many of them are breaking down the all 32 or whatever? I don't think it's that many of the Panthers week in and week out. I just don't. And so for me, it's like, if you watch these games here, which many of us, some against our better judgment, did, watch most of them.
Even when local television tried to save us and tell us not to, we found ways to watch this team.
That was a choice. But I think we saw the growth arc.
Yeah.
It's like we saw that trajectory. We were mind blown by it. I know I was, because
I was too.
And that was a cause for optimism, I think, for us, because we're desperately looking for anything to cling to, of like, because that defense ain't going to be the source of any optimism, that's for sure. And so it's like, let's look at his play at the end of the year, and the offense coming along as it did, and Chuba playing as well as he has, and all of that, and it just gives something to latch onto from that perspective. And it's not like there's no evidence for it. You know what I mean? Like there's literally, and it's the demeanor shift too. It's not just the stats and whatever and the improvement. And that way it's the visible, like that we all saw from watching the game. And that was the point. Yes. The confidence that completely, rebounded from where it was in the beginning of the year. And if you're not watching the Panthers as closely as all that, I'm not blaming you guys either. I'm not attacking you for this. Especially a lot of those games, like, save yourself. Don't go back and watch. Like, but I think there was more interest and thus more eyeballs on him towards the end of the year. And I think that's partly why people were like, okay, yeah, we kind of see what's going on here.
Well, let me give you a national guy that goes exactly the opposite, who not only believes in Bryce, but believes that the Panthers did everything right this offseason around Bryce. And it's somebody that I feel good when I hear this because he is from Pro Football Focus, where all they do is watch the all 22 of every NFL game every week. Dalton Wasserman co-hosts their podcast along with Trevor Sakima. I want you to hear his optimism around what this offense can be, simply because the Panthers did not panic and feel like they had to go get a pass rusher. They saw the opportunity to get Bryce a real number one receiver in Teteroa McMillan. Admittedly, the last time we talked, I was not all the way there, but to hear Dalton Wasserman talk about it like this, it is hard not to believe a little bit.
Exactly what Teteroa McMillan brings. 6'5", can jump out of the gym, downfield threat, highest graded receiver in college football over the last 2 years on 10-plus yard targets. Now, let me give you some BryceYoung numbers, because I think what we both agree on the second half of last year when he came back off the bench was BryceYoung just absolutely fearless, throwing the ball downfield, throwing the ball into tight windows. Here's some numbers for you on that, Trevor. From week 9 to week 18, all right, end of the second half of the regular season, BryceYoung tied with Justin Herbert for the best passing grade on 10-plus yard targets. Fits in with McMillan. 24 big-time throws, second in the NFL. Highest passing grade in the league and most big-time throws in the league into tight windows. And this was not an A-plus receiving core. He was working with Xavier Legette in his rookie year, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker. Now you add McMillan. That adds another dimension to all of that. Now BryceYoung should be less afraid than ever of throwing into tight windows, throwing the ball vertically on time, just giving his guys a chance. If he continues to play the way he did the second half of last year, you're going to see a completely different team from front to back.
So, very high.
I was very excited. I was very excited throughout until I did start to get a little nervous when he's like, "And don't be show any fear throwing into tight windows." I'm like, wait.
I mean, what? So all the guys at Pro Football Focus probably put this a little bit better and more succinctly than you and I did. But we did talk about the fact that Bryce seemed to be getting better at putting the ball in places that only his target could catch. And so for that, I think this team is on the right trajectory. I think they are on an upward path right now. I do have not pause. I just, as much as I trust what Pro Football Focus says they are seeing in the way they grade guys, have you seen across that website how bullish they are on the Panthers in 2025?
Oh God, no, please. That's terrifying.
There is so much talk about this is the dark horse team. There's no reason this team can't be a competitor in the NFC South. There is so much talk about not we're pushing all our chips to the center of the table on the Panthers, but don't be surprised when it happens going on at that website right now.
Please no, we did not ask for this. Do not want. Unsubscribe. No. And that site of all sites should know how important the defensive side of the ball also is. I think if you ever see them get criticized from time to time, it's usually like, I do see that a lot because, and to be fair to them, it is difficult to grade, particularly defensive tape, if you don't know what someone was supposed to be doing on a given play. But you do see them get grief for that, like from players and whatnot, of like, you didn't know what I was supposed to be doing or whatever it is. Like, you're wrong about this. I wasn't supposed, whatever it is. So, I'm not, this is not me disparaging them because I do agree with your overall point about like the amount of tape that they watch to get to get there. So that validates a lot of that opinion for me because they've watched that much tape. But yeah, I don't understand why they would feel that way when the defense, I feel like I'm sitting here screaming about something that like is very clearly wrong. That's not like anything else going on nowadays. And like most people are just like, it's fine. And I'm like, it's not fine.
We are both sitting in our own homes right now, staring down the barrel of cameras, screaming, "Quit being nice to me."
Well, that I am always doing.
Right.
And especially when it comes to the Panthers, because in no way has the Panthers getting any sort of anything resembling preseason hype ever ended well for the Panthers ever. So I'm like, please no, please, please
also,
no.
Okay, so you bring up what I was about to say next. There is also an element of this that feels like, even though last year, they, especially by the end of the year, they were a much better team than they were in 2023, or even through the first 8 weeks of the season. By leaps and bounds, they were a much better team. That being said, it does feel like part of the optimism is there is nowhere to go but up.
Which I'm with you, but like dark horse. When you add the collegiate ranks in around here, let's take a. It would probably be pretty ghastly, and maybe I should do this for my next Panthers column. Let's take a look at when teams were roundly thought of as dark horse contenders around here, how that ended up. Whether it's UNC, NC State. I won't include Duke in that because I think it's different. But like whether it's State or UNC or the Panthers, whenever dark horse gets thrown around, things feel pretty bleak in that department. But maybe I'm misremembering somewhat, but like I don't feel like that ever ends well for anyone. So please stop it. We don't just talk about us after it happens.
I mean,
hype us up
again. This team could compete for the South. That is not a reflection on how good the team is.
No, it's a reflection on how crappy the South is. Yeah.
Last thing I want to bring up on this, within this is, Lauren, does this offseason, if you were giving it a letter grade, does this feel like an A for the Panthers? Because Pro Football Focus gave the Panthers an A for their offseason.
But I also wouldn't think it's too far. Like, I'd give it a solid B. And the only reason I'm giving it a B is because of safety. That's the only reason.
Yeah, that's fair.
And because like, we'll see, they still have time to make up for that and get it up to an A for me. But I like what they've done almost everywhere else. I like the kinds of contracts they have for some of the guys that they were able to re-sign. I think they're team friendly for the most part. They managed to keep the cap situation in order somehow magically.
Yeah.
Through when we were like, how's this gonna work? And here we are. And so like, and look, they listen to their quarterback, which is not a thing that this team ever does very often. So to me, I'm mostly happy with it. They signed some defensive guys I really like as well. Not the safeties, but some of the other guys I really like those signings. I like the D tackles, I like the pass rushers. So I'm mostly pretty pleased, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I could go to a B plus. I think for me, an A offseason would mean that you didn't miss on anybody that you had at the top of your board. And even though I don't think not getting Milton Williams is going to break this team, it was a very noticeable, like, we've got to, oh wait, no, we don't kind of moment.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm with you. I don't mind that one as much, just because I think they got two guys that, could do something interesting, and they wouldn't have been able to do that if they had only, And
Derek Brown's coming back.
Yeah, I'm excited to read about his progress and that he's doing better. So that was exciting. Of course, I get sucked in by everything nowadays because I'm running on hopium, apparently. So like I'm reading about Teteroa McMillan staying after practice to work on his brakes, and I'm like, and I'm like, what are you doing, idiot?
Well, Trevor Sakima, who wrote this piece for Pro Football Focus, goes way beyond you and me, because he says, quote, the only thing holding the Panthers back from an A plus is that they didn't make any changes to the front office or coaching staff. Hang on. They didn't necessarily need to, but that's what pushes an A offseason to the next level in my mind. So I hear what he said. Like, you have to make major changes at a lot of places to be considered for an A plus. That being said, I still don't feel like this is to that level kind of offseason. I don't think they did anything bad. Yeah. I just don't feel like they did anything that makes me feel like they aced it.
For me, if they'd addressed safety in a way that made more sense, I would be at an A level. But Trevor, when you saying the name again, I was like, oh, he has Bucks roots.
He is.
That's where my conspiracy brain goes. And I'm like, this is a trap. You're
That's
doing this on purpose.
His Twitter handle is literally Tampa Bay Trey.
It's fine. He's really good.